From watching over 1,000 failed control arms to repairing thousands of worn-out suspensions, I've seen exactly what happens when drivers ignore the tiny warning signs. But here's the good news. After years of testing in real shops, I'm about to show you the suspension tricks most mechanics will never mention. In this video, you'll learn 10 secrets that can keep your suspension alive for years longer. Some require nothing more than a $14 product. Others take 5 minutes and a flashlight. But whatever you do, don't skip around. If you miss the cold weather mistake even experienced drivers make, your suspension could suffer big time. All right, let's get into it. Secret number 10, don't let your rubber seals dry out and crack. Suspension components are built to last anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 miles. But the rubber parts, bushings, boots, seals, are always the first to wear down. Even if you're the most careful driver on the planet, age and weather eventually take their toll. You can dramatically slow this process by keeping the rubber soft and flexible with a mechanic's classic trick, a T205 reseal. You won't find this tip in your owner's manual. A T205 is a polymer formula that revitalizes rubber and even seals small leaks. Normally, people add it to their engine oil, but it works extremely well on suspension parts too. Just pull off the wheel, pour some AT205 into a spray bottle, and mist every rubber component: steering boots, the top of the strut, torsion bar seals, CV axle boots, control arm bushings. Keeping these pieces conditioned can save you a fortune. For example, a lower control arm bushing is buried deep and costly to replace, $1,300 or more, especially on luxury models. A simple yearly spray can prevent all that, but this is nothing compared to the damage caused by the next mistake. Secret number 9. Stop beating up your suspension. Unless you've got a dedicated emergency fund sitting at $3,000, there is zero benefit to driving aggressively, especially on rough, uneven roads. Hard impacts are the fastest way to destroy coil springs. In one test, springs on a rough road wore out after just 1,248 cycles. On a smooth road, they lasted 19,060 cycles. Put simply, if you hit rough stretches twice a day, your springs can fail in under 2 years. But drive gently or stick to flatter routes and they can survive 2 decades, replacing all 4. Expect at least $1,400. But it doesn't end there. Lower control arms suffer even more. On rough terrain, they fail after 3,580 cycles, compared to over 11 million cycles on flat pavement, meaning the part can practically last forever if you treat it right. Otherwise, each arm costs around $550. Combine rough roads with aggressive driving and suddenly you're looking at $3,600 in repairs every 3 years. And things only get worse when you pair that with the next mistake. Secret number 8, clear the extra weight out of your trunk. Full-size spare tires used to be standard, then came the compact donuts. Now, only about 40% of new cars in the US include any spare at all, and in the UK it's closer to 3%. Manufacturers claim it's all about improving fuel economy, but weight reduction does make a difference. Extra weight doesn't just burn fuel, it compresses your springs and shocks, reducing suspension travel and causing premature failure. Overloaded cars suffer blown shocks, sagging springs, worn bushings, and even poor acceleration and tire wear. All of that adds up to thousands of dollars. So if you must haul heavy items, dump them as soon as you don't need them. Keep only essentials: an emergency kit, light tools, or a compact inflator. Everything else? Leave it at home. Too much weight accelerates the same failures caused by rough roads. And when you combine both issues, you're almost guaranteed to face the next problem sooner than you think. Secret number 7. Never postpone a wheel alignment. About 70% of drivers think mechanics are trying to scam them, and alignment is one of the services people doubt the most. Because of this fear, 35% of drivers admit they delay alignment for over a month, more than enough time to damage tires and suspension components. Your tires are actually a key part of the suspension system. When wheels are misaligned, the tread wears unevenly and your tires stop rolling at proper angles. This stresses ball joints, wheel bearings, tie rods, and control arms. The weight of the car shifts unevenly, and over time the struts and shocks start to suffer too. Depending on how long you wait, repairs can cost a few hundred to several $1,000s. Meanwhile, a simple $150 alignment could prevent all of it. Take advantage of free alignment checks whenever you change your oil or rotate your tires. Even a 2mm misalignment is enough to cause problems, and keeping your alignment in check plays a big role in the next suspension secret. Secret number 6. Protect your strut mounts. These little components rarely get attention, but they're essential for a smooth, quiet ride. Their main job is to cushion vibrations and keep the struts firmly in place. But because the mounts themselves are inexpensive, often around $20, they're easy for mechanics to overlook. The problem is what happens after the mount fails. If the rubber boot deteriorates, your struts are the next to go, and replacing struts can cost $800 per axle, sometimes over $1,300 at certain shops. To avoid that, keep the strut mount rubber flexible. A light application of AT205 down the sides of the mount helps prevent cracking and premature wear. Also, be mindful of potholes. Hard impacts can knock the mount out of position. Many drivers don't notice until they lift the car and the mount literally drops out. Another common issue is over-tightening the top nuts. Always use the recommended torque. And one more thing, cold weather clunks are usually harmless. Rubber stiffens when temperatures drop. Once the car warms up, the noise typically disappears. Now let's move to something drivers overlook even more often. Secret number 5. Regularly retighten your suspension bolts. NASCAR pit crews retorque hundreds of bolts before every race for a reason. Bolts loosen over time. They rarely snap, but vibrations, bumps, and wear gradually work them loose, especially if you drive on rough or unpaved roads. In fact, studies show that off-road driving can cause bolts to loosen 38% faster. If your suspension is designed to last 50,000 miles, loose bolts can shorten that lifespan to around 36,000 miles. And driving with loose bolts doesn't just wear out bushings and ball joints, it can crack the frame, ruin alignment, destroy tires, and in severe cases cause full part separation. That's how serious accidents happen. Luckily, this is an easy fix. Every time you rotate your tires, typically every 5,000 to 8,000 miles, have the bolts retorqued. It might cost around $100, but it can prevent thousands in repairs and keep your suspension safe. Now that we're talking about tires, the next secret might surprise you even more. Secret number 4. Take care of your tires. Your entire suspension depends on them. Most people think of tires as something separate from suspension, but engineers design the whole suspension system around the size, shape, and alignment of your tires. Tires are actually the first line of shock absorption, softening every impact before it reaches the springs or struts. When your tire pressure is wrong, impact forces can increase by up to 35%, sending extra punishment straight into the suspension. Using the wrong tire size for off-roading or installing them incorrectly can shorten the lifespan of your shocks by 30%. Even moderately neglected tires will cause your suspension to wear 20% faster, and that doesn't even include the damage caused by misalignment, which we covered earlier. So always keep your tires at the recommended PSI, listed on the driver's door frame and in the manual. Rotate them every 8,000 miles and maintain proper alignment. And if you haven't already, check out our video on 17 tire mistakes most drivers make. It pairs perfectly with this suspension guide. Secret number 3. Wash off road salt regularly. If there's one thing that destroys suspension faster than rough roads, it's salt. Salt reacts with moisture and oxygen, creating corrosion, even before you see visible rust. It eats into control arms, shocks, subframes, and especially brake and fuel lines. When that happens, you're looking at thousands of dollars in repairs. Salt is sneaky. It sticks to the underside of your car and settles into corners you never see. If you live somewhere with heavy snowfall or near coastal air, this becomes a year-round problem. The solution is simple. Rinse the undercarriage once a week during salt season. If you don't want to do it at home, some drive-through washers have underbody jets, but at $20 a visit, the cost adds up fast. A better approach is to buy a pressure washer, a sturdy jack, and a water broom. It's a small upfront investment that can save over $5,000 in future suspension and brake line repairs. And if you ever do need to replace parts, the next secret is absolutely critical. Secret number 2, always use quality suspension parts. According to national data, nearly 60% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency repair. So when something breaks, most people naturally reach for the cheapest replacement they can find. especially when OEM suspension parts cost significantly more than aftermarket alternatives. Take a ball joint as an example. The aftermarket version might cost $20, while the OEM version starts around $200. Saving $180 sounds great, until the part doesn't fit quite right, wears out early, or damages another component. Then you're paying labor twice and replacing more than you expected. Suspension is not a system you want to cheap out on. Always replace parts in pairs, replace them on time, and head to a shop immediately if you notice sagging ride height, unusual noises, or poor handling. A failing suspension doesn't just ruin comfort, it compromises safety, especially at high speeds. Bonus tip: small surface cracks on bushings are normal. If the rubber isn't split and isn't making noise, don't let a mechanic upsell you into a $1,500 repair you don't need. Secret number 1, check your power steering fluid regularly. Most drivers think this fluid only helps the steering wheel turn smoothly. But here's the truth: your power steering system directly impacts your entire suspension. Tie rods, control arms, and steering knuckles all rely on it to reduce friction and maintain stability. If the power steering system isn't functioning properly, these components begin wearing out quickly. The fluid keeps everything lubricated and prevents excessive internal friction, which protects the ball joints and tie rods from premature failure. Now think about steering effort. When the wheel becomes harder to turn, extra force gets transferred into the strut mounts and control arm bushings, causing them to deteriorate faster. That tiny reservoir of fluid is protecting thousands of dollars worth of parts. Check your power steering fluid once a month. Make sure the level isn't low and the fluid isn't dirty. Contaminated fluid becomes a liquid cutting tool. Moving at around 1,400 psi, it can tear through hoses, bearings, and seals. Some cars recommend replacing the fluid every 3 years, others at 50,000 miles, and even sooner if you drive on dirt roads. Bonus secret: modern suspensions don't use grease fittings anymore. Years ago, you could grease nearly every joint under your car and keep the suspension smooth indefinitely. But today, most suspension components are sealed from the factory, rubber riding directly against metal, with no grease ports and no way to service them. That means friction builds faster, and once the rubber dries out, wear starts immediately. This is exactly why rubber conditioners matter more now than ever. Products like AT205 aren't just helpful. They're practically your only line of defense against dry, squeaky, prematurely failing suspension parts. Keeping those rubber components soft can extend their lifespan dramatically. And if you think your mechanic has told you everything, think again. There are hidden issues that drain money quietly, long before you notice something's wrong. In the next video, I'll break down 11 hidden car problems that silently cost drivers around $2,700 every year. Click over before another repair sneaks up on you.